Hi, I'm Joseph Crudup, and welcome to my storybook. Tonight I'm here to read this book called Lyle at Christmas. This book called about the gator who spent time at Christmas, wanted to do something special. I'm not going to read it for this book right now here tonight. Let's begin, shall we? Lyle at Christmas by Bernard Well. Christmas was in the air. It was everywhere, and everywhere he went, Lyle the crocodile was rest and Merry Christmas. Children gave him big hugs. So did Mella, the crossing guard. That's my special Christmas hug, she told him. Texas driver, Texas drivers waved clearly to him, as did the newsstand owner and the pizza man. Everyone loved Lyle the crocodile, and in return Lyle loved the whole wide world. He loved Bud. And loyalty the cat. He lived 2 houses away with Mr. Grumps. He loved East 88th Street and the house he shared so happily with Mr. and Mrs. Prim, their children, Joshua and Melanie, his mother, and Bud. His only problem was deciding what gift he wanted most. But if Lyle was happy at Christmas, there was someone living close by who was not at all happy. That someone was feeling downright miserable. In fact, and that someone was Mr. Grumps. I'm having the ballers, not monitor, Mr. Grumps. Those low-down pit bar Lance holiday ballers. Tis the season to the jolly, right? Well, tell me about it. Oh, I try so hard to get into the spirit of it all. Mr. Grunt groaned. I trimmed the tree, wrapping gifts, homing a carol or two, wishing for snow, roasting chestnuts on the open fire. They're all that, and still, I ain't having a balls. Even his daughter cat, Loyalty, who mostly enjoys same disposition, had it up to her whiskers with down in the dumps Mr. Grumps and took to barking about. In her darkness moments, she considered running away. Everyone tried desperately to shield Mr. Grumps. That exhausted his entire repertoire of surefire emotion tricks. Nothing. Joshua and Mandela baking a huge batch of happy face cookies for him, accompanying them by note that we have a nice day, Mr. But Mr. Grumps was in no mood for happy faces. No one was here about to have a nice day. Miss Prim thought a game or two of checkers would devil him, but she soon discovered that Mr. Grumps was an almighty sore loser. Lyle's mother, Nurse Fancy, checking Mr. Grunt's paws and asked him to stick out his tongue. No problem with his health, she concluded. Mr. Plum tried telling him upwards jokes. Hold it, Mr. Grunt said. cutting him short. Heard that one too. It soon became painfully clear, at least for the moment, that no amount of shelter could lift Mr. Grumps out of his story. Sorry holiday blobs. We'll just do all that we can to let Mr. Grumps know, no matter what, that we do care about him and love him, says Miss Plum. One day, a terrible disgusted Mr. Grudge appearing at the Plum's door. Loretta, Loretta, oh my poor, sweet Loretta, he cried. What's happening to Loretta? Mr. Plums exclaiming, she's gone, vanished, slipping out as I signed for the package. Loretta is lost, Mr. Grumps wept. Oh no, everyone cried out. Loretta lost. I was thunderstruck. Loretta, Loretta. Mr. Grunts sobbing away. Immediately, the family spread out in search of Loretta. Loretta. Mr. Pons circled the neighborhood in her car. Joshua and Miranda questioned people on the street. Mr. Palmer and Lyle looked everywhere, late into the night. No Loretta. No one slept that night. Lyle kept a constant virgin at the window, exhaustion searching the street below for signs of Loretta. Surely the versions of Loretta, raining in our lawn, or caught up in the air in all manner of dangerous scraps hunting him. Suddenly Lyle knew all too clearly what he wanted most for Christmas. But much sooner, please, I want the safe return of Loretta, he whispered to himself. The next day, the family was posting notices everywhere about Loretta and handing out flowers. Mr. Grumps offering a handsome reward, and many stages were brought to his door. No, that's not Loretta. Sorry, not that one either. Not that one, he said, sadly turning one after another away. But do, please try to find good homes for these cats. He'd always ordered them. At long last, Mr. Grunts has something meaningful to be unhappy about. Well, oh well, is she? He cried out again and again. So what indeed was Loretta? Well, after spending a shivery, terrifying night far away from East 88th Street, she was, at this exact moment, having serious second thoughts about running away. True, she had had her fill of grumping Mr. Grumps, but now she began to miss him desperately, blase and all, and she missed her friends, but mostly Lyle. The world away from home was a lonely place, she sadly decided, especially at Christmas. Ah, what have we here? Loretta soon found herself starting up at the gremlin face of a Purnell cat, known in the neighborhood as the cat lady. And oh, so pretty. Purnell clouded all along. Are you not home? No one to look after you. To feed you? Oh, you poor, shivery darling. Well, not to worry. Purnell is here, and Purnell will take good care of you. Purnell scoping Loretta up. put her in the basket, and squandered home. With quick steps, Pornella climbed down the rescue stairs to her third floor rooms. At the landing, she met an upstairs neighbor, and that neighbor was none other than Hector P. Redneck, star soars, star stage, and scream. Look, will you, says Pornella, proudly lifting the lip of her basket. Now another cat. Pornella, Hector rolled his eyes. Yes, and isn't she a precious little limp kid? Prunella cooling on her baby voice. Undoubtable, Hatter shook his head in disbelief as he was off to work. Prunella entered her apartment and immediately set Laura free. Welcome home, my darling, she said. Laura blanking in amazement. It was intentionally clear that Pornella never met a cat she didn't like. Whole place swarmed with cats. Cats hell, cats Dale, cats, Glover, everywhere. And so wasn't at all nice. Now, more than ever, Laura traveled longing to be home. Meanwhile, the search for Laura went on, posting still another noise. Lyle and Miss Plum. Suddenly, her friendly voice called to them from the inside the house. They soon discovered the voice belonging to Lyle's former dance partner, Hector P. Vanton. Stays and screams. Stays and scream. The old friends were delighted to see one another, but what was Hector up to now? Well, at the moment it seems he was very busy, cleaning windows. Oh, do you live here? Asked Mr. Prim. Hector came to the door. Exactly. I work here, he answered. I perform a star quality house cleaning service. It's an interesting little side venture for him. Between stage and screen engagements, of course. Yes, of course, says Mr. Prim. Lyle immediately gave Hector a fly about Laura. Hector read it with great interest, especially the part about the reward. He looked carefully at Laura's picture. Suddenly bells went off in his head. I can find Laura, he announced. Lyle and Miss Prim were overjoyed. Oh, please, let's get her at once, says Mr. Prim. Not so fast, says Hector. The people I work for will want a clean house when they return. Oh, but we must find Laura. Mrs. Prim pleaded. Hector had an idea. Come on, please, he said. Hector took off his apron and put it on Lyle. I'm sure you know what to do. Lyle, said Hector. I don't think Lyle should be doing this, says Mrs. Prim. But Lyle's cheerful smile encourages Mrs. Prim to leave with Hector. Goodbye, dear, says Mrs. Prim. We won't be long, I'm sure. See you later, says Hector. And do, please, remember to dust under the beds. Lyle was so delighted at the prospect of finding a Laura, he got to work at once, and with great anxiety, he scrubbed the dishes thoroughly in hot sudden water, and immediately his relaxation in the greater brightness. After polishing the silverware, Lyle went on to make the beds. As always, he was proud of hospital corners and pictures how pleased the homeowners will be when they return. After that, there was the usual scrubbing, dusting, sweeping, and waxing. To laying his house cleaning clothes, Lyle decided to have fun with floor waxing by pretending to do a television commercial. See my shiny wax floor. He made believe he was saying, "Isn't it beautiful? Is it gorgeous? Want to know my secret? Daisy. That's right, folks. Daisy floor wax. So if you want low floor to sprinkle or sparkle like mine's, what's out there this very instant, if not sooner, and get lots of some Daisy, and to get that, and do get the giant income economy size. Take it from Lyle. You won't be sorry. Oh, and by the way, friends, remember our sorry Daisy Diesels. Lyle was so pleased with his commercial, he began to dance. Oops! The brass floor was slipping, and he fell, crumpling at the feet of Mr. and Mrs. Westmore, the owners of the house, who had just come home. They were nourished of moles. In fact, there was salt and sauce to find crocodile prancing about the house. Mrs. Westmore poor morning of Fanny as Mr. Westmore managed somehow to call the police. The police arrived and arrested Lyle. He was charged with breaking in the news. His arrest was broadcast far and wide. Later, in court, the judge was about to have Lyle locked up with Miss Prune Hathor and Prunella bust in with loyalty Lyle's eyes lit up the instant he saw Lotta. Please, Law Honor, Mrs. Permanent pleaded. Lyle is innocent. He was merely happened to clean up so Hathor could be free to find Lotta. Is this true? Asked the judge. Yes, Law Honor, says Hathor. And when exactly was Lotta? Asked the judge. Safe and sound in my home. Brunella spoke up politely. When I heard this, Mr. and Mrs. Once-more who were also in court, immediately dropping the charges. They even commended Lyle for doing an outstanding job cleaning that house. Best we ever had, says Mrs. Once-more, looking scornfully at Hathor. Case dismissed, said the judge. On Christmas Eve, Mr. Grumps gave a dinner party. Everyone was invited. The Prunes, Lyle and his mother, Hathor, Prunella, and even Mr. and Mrs. Westmore. Besides sharing the reward for finding Lotta, Hathor and Prunella Senior also to share a blossoming fondness for one another. We will need to find good homes for your cats, Prunella, said Hathor. We'll be on the wall so much, you know. Of course, Hathor dear, Prunella said wanly. Mr. Grunch and Lotta were blissfully reunited friends. This is a most joyous, meaningful night, says Mr. Grunch. And so, I say to one and all, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, and goodbye forever to the bloggers. Everyone smiled, especially Lyle and Lotta. And that's all for this book for now. To Lyle at Christmas. I have enjoyed reading this book. It's been like 20 minutes. Until then, have a great Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next time. Till then, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.